When the temperature drops into the teens and keeps falling, the margin for error disappears fast. This isn't camping weather. This is the kind of cold that exposes weak assumptions and lazy thinking. Cold doesn't negotiate, and it doesn't care how motivated you are. Every calorie your body produces is under attack, and the only thing standing between you and hypothermia is how well you understand the physics of heat, air, moisture, and terrain. Tonight's lesson is about building a shelter that doesn't just block the wind, but actively creates a survivable microclimate using principles humans relied on for thousands of years before nylon and propane ever existed. Before we go any further, take a second to support the channel. If you value historically grounded survival knowledge like this, hit like, share this with someone who thinks a tent equals safety. Drop a comment with your experience and subscribe to Warfront Survival. This channel exists to preserve real knowledge, not gear myths. Now, let's get to work. Why cold kills faster than hunger ever will? Cold doesn't kill by freezing you solid. It kills by stealing decision-making. As your core temperature drops, cognition collapses. Small mistakes multiply, hands lose dexterity, judgment fails. That's why shelters are not about comfort. They're about preserving brain function. A modern tent offers almost no thermal resistance. It blocks wind and nothing else. Without insulation, thermal mass and air control, it becomes a refrigerated box. Physics guarantees failure. The invisible terrain that decides life or death. Cold air is heavier than warm air. At night, it flows downhill like water. Valleys, riverbeds, and low ground become cold sinks filled with damp air that strips heat up to 25 times faster than dry air. Ridges are no safer. Wind accelerates over high points and rips heat away through convection. The survivable zone is the thermal belt, the middle third of a slope where cold air drains below and wind passes overhead. This isn't folklore. It's measurable reality. Why rock is not just shelter, but stored energy. Stone absorbs heat during the day and releases it slowly at night through thermal lag. Basalt and granite are especially effective. The mistake most manuals make is telling you to build near rock. The correct approach is to build with it. A shelter opening placed roughly 4 feet from a sun-warmed rock face creates a radiant feedback loop. Heat leaves the stone, warms the shelter interior, reflects back, and cycles again. Move too far away and the system collapses. This turns geology into a battery. The ground is the first enemy you must defeat. Bare earth will drain heat straight out of your body through conduction. Clearing down to dirt is a fatal error. What you need is a dielectric barrier made of dry organic material. Pine needles, dead ferns, leaf litter, and forest duff create trapped air when layered deeply. 12 inches loose compresses to about 4 inches under body weight, forming dead airspace, the most effective insulation available in nature. This isn't bedding. It's thermal separation from a frozen planet. Shelter geometry matters more than size. Big shelters waste heat. Small shelters suffocate airflow. The correct volume balances surface area with body output. A single human produces roughly 100 watts of heat. Your shelter must be sized to retain it without condensing moisture. A ridgepole set at about waist height creates enough headroom to manage condensation while minimizing unused air. Dead standing timber is preferred because it's dry, rigid, and blends into the environment without leaving fresh scars. How insulation actually works when done right. Insulation isn't dumped, it's engineered. Bark slabs go first to block ground splash and moisture intrusion. Debris follows in compressed arm loads, layered deliberately. Too loose and wind penetrates. Too tight and heat conducts outward. A thickness of roughly 3 feet pushes the dew point outside the living space, keeping condensation out of the interior. Dry insulation preserves heat. Wet insulation accelerates death. Breaking outlines keeps you alive longer than you might think. Straight lines, well, they just don't exist in nature. Clean geometry actually attracts attention, whether it's human or otherwise. So heavy branches and dead saplings are leaned randomly against the structure to shatter the silhouette. Edges are feathered into the forest floor until the shelter honestly disappears right into the terrain. Loose debris is tossed overhead and allowed to fall naturally, coating everything in the same texture as the surrounding ground. Camouflage isn't just tactical, you know. It also preserves heat by sealing those micro gaps you didn't even see. Transporting heat without fire. Now, that's a clever trick. Fire inside a shelter is frankly lethal. Smoke reveals your position, and carbon monoxide, well, it kills silently. The solution here is energy transfer. A small, intense fire, built well away from the shelter, heats dense, non-porous stones like basalt or granite. After several hours of heating, the stones are wrapped in green bark and carried back. Buried under a thin layer of soil at the shelter's centre, they release radiant heat slowly for 6 to 8 hours. No light, no smoke, no smell. Just stored energy, quietly doing its job. Ventilation keeps the system alive. A sealed shelter becomes a coffin, you know. A low intake vent near the head allows cold, dense air to enter. A slightly loosened exhaust near the ridge allows warm air to escape. This creates passive airflow driven by body heat alone. Oxygen stays stable. Carbon dioxide exits. Heat remains. Physics does the work without stealing warmth. By morning, the shelter can be dismantled and scattered, leaving no trace, no debris pile, no scars. The forest resets. This isn't luck. It's applied physics refined by generations who survived without modern systems. Survival isn't about overpowering nature. That fight is unwinnable. It's about understanding forces you can't see and turning them into allies. If this knowledge matters to you, support Warfront Survival. Subscribe, share this guide, and keep this information alive. Skills like these don't expire, and one day they may be the difference between enduring the night and owning it.